Check one, check one. How you doing, buddy? Good. Okay. I think I'm good to go. I got my screen shared right now, and the only thing I'm really unclear on is perhaps a way to find questions or show people that are asking questions. That's the only. My screen shared. I know it's recording. So it says new share, pause share, annotate more, and chat. Then it drops. The drop down says chat, invite. So just click on chat. That's gotcha. So if so do I need to leave the Zoom group chat box open? Okay. So okay. Yep. Perfect. I'll do it. All right, buddy. I'll crack her. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Bye. Check one, check one. Check one. Hello, hello. There we go. All right. Well, hey, welcome to this ongoing series of Navionics webinars. And this is SonarCharts Live Winter Chinook. And, you know, the whole thing we're doing here is learning to utilize the best available maps we have. And you know what? We really need to focus our efforts. And this just using this type of cartography is going to help us do exactly that. So what are we going to do here? You know, the thing we're doing here is really working to unlock structure. And by that, I mean through the use of Navionics charts, both sonar charts that are available to us on the Navionics app, Navionics chart cards. We're also looking to develop a fishing plan by using these charts and from, you know, going straight from charts to actually having an approach to fish in this body of water. Now, one thing about this, and this is just kind of a overhead shot here of the archipelago that is the San Juan Islands here in northern Washington. And you're going to notice each one of these tide stations here in blue and how it's located on shore. I don't know of a single other source of tidal information that has more tide stations available to you than the Navionics app or Navionics chart cards. In addition to that, we get current flow, and those would be the blue arrows that we see, you know, in the middle of these water flows here. So in addition, you can count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you know, and you can't possibly carry a chart or excuse me, a tide book that would have this many tide stations and be able to review them in real time. So you know, and I really think I think that's absolutely important. So so here we go. So what we're talking about here then is the availability of real-time tidal information. And so here's, you know, if we're fishing up north San Juan's there, we're going to launch our boat right around the corner, Washington Park. This is a Ship Harbor right around the corner, and here's just one of the tide stations. So you click on that tide station, bring up the icon, and then we're good to go. And I should say that at the end of this, if any of you have any questions, please just add them to the chat, and after that, I will get to as many of them as I possibly can. So so here we go. We're you know, we're finding these tide stations, put the cursor on there, hit the question mark, and away we go. So let's talk about the advantages we have also in a function known as SonarCharts Live, which is actually the ability of the Navionics app in an iPad, for instance, to record your vessel's own sonar echoes. Now, this is a recording I made at about 35 miles an hour, my cruise speed, and you can see I marked this 84 right here with the cursor, 84 feet, and you can see the path that's implied by all these lines here, by all these depths, I should say, rather, and how it's changed the background. That's actually the recording and correcting of this chart, even at cruising speed. Now the slower you go, the more accuracy you're going to have, the better the echoes are going to be. And here's another chart that actually has just a depth range listed prior to me running over it, again, at hull speed. I mean, we're going quite quickly, and this mark that says, you know, the chart just takes a guess, it's between 120 and 300. You can see easily on this chart that it's now reflected as a 222 depth. And you're also starting to get the beginning of increased lines of detail. And you know, if I was going slower over this, you'd see, and I'll show you some of these a little bit later. For instance, here we go. here is another path we made closer to a shoaling, a known, well-known grounding area that now I have excellent depth contours right next to it, even though I was going by it at hull speed. SonarCharts has just an amazing effect on the way I've been able to fish. This is a possession bar in Puget Sound, and if you go over to the icon here and click this screen will come up on your Navionics app, and you want to click on SonarCharts. And when you do, this is what you get. You get these amazing new lines of detail that actually almost add a 3D character to the chart, in that you can actually see the structure and get a better feel for the structure because of those increased lines of detail. So that's possession bar. This is mid-channel bank. Again, we're going to go over here, click on this icon. The Navionics standard chart comes up, but when we click on the sonar charts, that's what we get. So tremendous detail. I don't know anybody that wouldn't want to have this type of detail to fish on and really unlock the challenging structure that we have, in the northern Pacific Northwest, inside Puget Sound, and up in the San Juans. So now, if we have great depth information, we need to also attack this structure accurately. And the best way to do that is with a controlled depth fishing method that is downrigger trolling. So, downriggers do a great job, but they're only as accurate as you have them calibrated. So what I want you to do is lower that ball to the water line, put the counter to 0. We need to agree that 10 pounds of a downrigger ball should be a practical minimum for saltwater applications. And I run 12s and 15s, and even 20 pounds are better. And lighter downrigger balls offer absolutely no advantage if we're talking about electric downriggers. And if we're not, we need to have a different conversation. So now we'll talk about trolling and view it in the light of other techniques, and each technique presented tonight should be kind of part of your total strategy. And we're just trolling, mooching, and jigging are just 3 different ways to skin the cat here. And we need to have an operating knowledge of each one of these techniques. Trolling is just one of the ways to get it done. And if you want to become a master moocher, troller, and jig guy, that's a lofty aspiration. I know I'm still chasing it. Well, we need to understand, though, there's times and tides each day in which one technique is going to outperform the other. And the challenge to us, obviously, is recognizing those conditions that indicate the use of a particular technique. And with the Navionics app, we have so much better current flow information that making that choice just became a lot easier. So when's the time to troll? All right, we're just going to talk about some basic downrigger techniques here. The classic textbook downrigger trolling scenario is when we got salmon and bait. They're stratified in a particular depth range. We're talking increasing light levels when herring will come off the surface. Salmon will start attacking them from below. So you have salmon and bait layered in a very defined layer of the water column. Definitely time to go to work on them. Or maybe, in your heart of hearts, you are you're a vertical presentation kind of guy. You like to mooch, you like to jig, but you've got you've got a 20-knot wind, for example, or you've got tidal flows that are just going to prevent you from making that vertical presentation. Definitely time to troll. Or maybe, you haven't been out in a while. And if you're in a searching mode, there's absolutely no better way to search than get those downriggers down and accurately fish that structure that you've identified with your Navionics cartography. Another thing I get a lot of questions about is the electric charge that's on your downrigger wire, and whether you like it or not, your boat's underwater metals are protected by a zinc sacrificial anode. That anode is designed to go negative and give off metal, sacrificing itself for the preservation of the rest of your boat's underwater metals. And part of these underwater metals include the stainless steel wire that's on your downrigger. So if those sacrificial anodes go negative, your wire naturally goes positive. It is to that extent that the wire goes positive that we are either attracting fish or repelling them from our boat. Now, here's the thing. It's not your choice. It's not an option. You have electricity on your wire and you need to monitor it. So, and it's not difficult to do. You can either, install an aftermarket black box, or with Canon downriggers, for example, positive ion control is built into each unit, monitors it. You can go ahead and adjust it, but it'll tell you what your voltage is from the get-go, and that's pretty handy. We can also use this downrigger to attract fish, and by doing so, we take the load off of our rods and reels to a great extent. So, you know, here we have a flasher that's suspended from the ball. It's not on your rod. We're running a whole bait, in this case in a crippled bait rig. We've got this 6 feet up from the clip, or a boom length rather. The ball is 6 feet below that clip and 6 feet here. So none of this can tangle because it's all a similar depth. Make sure you run your flasher drops. I construct my own out of a 150-pound mono, and you know, A9 crimps. We'll put this thing together for you and just get it done. We also need to watch our wire, because your downrigger wire angle is really the only thing on your boat that takes into account all the factors affecting the motion of your boat. So obviously with your boat stopped, ball in the water, the angle is going to be 0. When we start moving, if we're moving the boat, you know, we're start developing this angle. It is this angle from the boom tip to the water line that we really want to monitor and manipulate for maximum fishing attraction. Then, you know, we will reconcile this angle then with the with our boat's you know, GPS speed over ground. We're going to remember that angle when we get bit. We're going to reconcile it by observing our GPS and hey, look, you know, I had that 45-degree angle. I was going about 2.2. That's when he bit. Okay, it is then we start to kind of get a better feel and confidence as we keep fishing different locations in our targeted fishing area. We, you know, again, we want to watch our riggers as strike indicators as well. If you have 2 downriggers out and your rod tips start vibrating in a rhythmic fashion at the same time, you are absolutely stuck together left to right. There's no way your stuff should be vibrating at the exact same rhythm, you know. Or sometimes with if we're fishing in the summertime, there's lots of Puget Sound line main jellyfish out, and if you get a slow increase in your downrigger wire angle and then it just pulls on back, you know, that's often drift, or more to the point, a jellyfish, and this thing about jellyfish, their gelatinous nature has them moving down the wire and will absolutely foul a flasher. So, and those stinging cells that are within the jellyfish will get down to that hook. And at that point, man, you got gear in the water, but you ain't fishing. You got to get that stuff out. Make sure that jellyfish comes off your gear and you're good to go. You know, and here it is. Wire jerking, absolutely no question. You got a fish on at that point. It's definitely you're going to see it on your downrigger wire before you see it on your rod, which is why we want to watch the wire. You know, we need to run our stuff tight too. By tight, we mean close to the release. 12 feet behind a release is really plenty of room. And if you think about it, we're not going to tangle our gear port to starboard as much, but more importantly, that fish has less room to actually swim before he experiences hook setting tension if we're fishing our gear tight to that release. Okay, let's talk about where the downriggers need to be on the boat. You know, you're setting yourself up really a workstation when you get that downrigger set up on your boat. So let's get that thing up forward of the transom so you can comfortably stand behind it. But more importantly, when we have a fish on, as is shown in this picture here, the net man is between the angler and the fish, and that is where we're going to do our best business. The downrigger's out of the way. The netman's at the corner of the gunnel. He's got a wonderful, clean place to work. The angler can step back in the boat and make the netman's job even easier. And I tell you what, that's a beautiful thing to watch in action. So make sure when you do choose a mounting location on your boat that the corners of the gunnel are really reserved for landing fish, people getting in and out of the boat. Get those riggers up in the boat. They really don't need to be back on the transom. You know, and maximize your area of attraction by getting your downrigger boom straight out. I mean, think about this. If the beam of your boat is 8.5, 9 feet, pretty standard width, and you have 2 5-foot downrigger booms protruding straight out from the side of the boat, you just extended your reach by 10 feet. Not only does this maximize your area of fish attraction, but it's also going to minimize tangling, fouling gear, keeping it out of your props. There's absolutely no reason not to get your gear well out away from the boat. And that's what long downrigger booms extended fully will do for you. You know, you also, with regard to your downrigger releases, each one of these particular releases pops at a different rate. And the less downrigger releases you have on your boat, the better chance you have to learn the personality, if you will, of a particular release. So, you know, but here's the problem with releases, and I run 2 types basically. Let me go back one. I actually clicked her a little too quick there. Hold on, there we go. Okay, so I run an offshore red and an offshore black. The offshore red is a double spring release that has a very dependable tension if you're fishing flasher gear, whereas the black release really is well suited for bait fishing or plug applications. So, but the problem with offshore releases is they only come with about a 6-inch leash, and that's a problem because longer releases are definitely easier to use as long as your downrigger boom, you don't really have to reach and lean over the side of the boat, which could really be an issue. So also with that longer release that fish hits, you're going to throw a stronger or longer arc, and you're going to have a better chance of seeing that strike on your rod tip. So again, if we have just a 6-inch release right here, we get a little tiny arc right here. But if we have a longer 6-foot release, that arc's going to that release is going to come down in an arc. We're going to have a chance to see it. That fish is going to experience a softer initial mouth feel and just take your gear more deeply. You're going to hook and land a lot more fish with longer releases. All right, now let's talk specifically about how your depth sounder and your downriggers work together. I mean, the #1 challenge we have with regard to teaching people how to use today's magnificent marine electronics is display interpretation. How do you know what you're seeing on that display is really good information that you need to pay attention to? And by paying attention to, you're going to run your downriggers at depth. I mean, here's the thing. With today's stuff, with today's electronics, there's no excuse to fish a clean screen. And if you fish one depth, you go out there and just that's the depth you're going to fish, that's fine. I mean, you're going to get a fish. But if you move your gear to the depth that your depth sounder is telling you to move it, you're going to be more successful. Let's look at 3 aspects of choosing a particular depth sounder to get the job done. #1, you want to look at output power, and that's going to be reflected in either RMS, which is root mean square watts, or peak to peak. You know, these days you should see a peak to peak of between 500 and 1,000 watts at a minimum. Some commercial fishing gear even broadcasts more down sounder cone angles. For the depths we fish commonly in the Puget Sound region, Pacific Northwest, Southeast Alaska, West Coast Vancouver Island, 200 kilohertz is a wonderful frequency, gets the job done. Although 50 has better depth penetration, it's a wider cone, you're going to see more fish. But for individual target separation, 200 kilohertz seems to be an absolute dynamite frequency. And it's important to know what you're looking at as a fish moves into your cone as well. So this cone of water insonified or with sound in it from the face of the transducer is listening for echoes back from a midwater target. When a fish enters your cone, initially it's a weak signal, weak return, so the depth sounder interprets that as a weak signal. Then as this same fish enters the middle of the cone, that's obviously where that signal is going to be strongest. He reflects a stronger, closer signal back, and of course the process reverse, he exits the cone. When you see a full arch like this, you know you've absolutely center punched the fish. He's right underneath your boat. And as you start seeing them and catching them, your faith in this whole display interpretation thing is going to grow. Downrigger balls will mark as horizontal lines, as I'm showing here. Okay, here's a ball here, and here's a ball here. And as they retrieve, they'll show as a diagonal line. Okay, those 2 downrigger balls are coming up because we got a double, and there's no need to have that wire in the water. We're playing 2 fish. Here's another scenario where we have a downrigger ball going right into a bait ball. We hooked up. Then you see the downrigger ball being retrieved as actually the absence of static in this screen. Kind of an interesting manifestation of that. There's another downrigger ball here that's going straight down to the bottom. It was bounced off the bottom and then started fishing. All these marks around it are salmon. And this the salmon we caught in this scenario was herring. Now, here's a school of candlefish in kind of a bait tornado formation, if you will. And this upside down banana character is actually on the screen because I've run a bottom lock zoom on this screen. Here's a whole water column, top to bottom. Here is the zoom portion of this screen, and it's expanded into this screen to the left. That is absolutely snack time. When you see that, boy, I tell you what, you're definitely in the right spot. But there's no need, this day and age with the electronics we have, to fish a clean screen. Now, typically, I'll fish a depth sounder on one side of the screen and a fish finder on the other, so I can keep myself located on a particular bottom contour. Also, we need to really focus on what our bait looks like before and after a strike. And so, you know, here's a situation where in the stomach of fish we just caught, we we have young of the year herring and pogie or pile perch, and it was striking how these two spoons really were a pretty good representation of the local feed at the time. So pretty interesting stuff right there as well. You know, the Great Lakes region actually gave us the Downrigger for the gratitude for us sending eggs back to the Great Lakes. You know, and so they still have a bit to teach us with regard to downrigger techniques. And one of the things is fishing that middle or chute rigger. I like to fish that rigger with a lighter ball and keep my my wings or outsides with heavier balls on, you know, 15s on the outside, 10s down the middle, and then put a plug or a whole bait 50 feet behind the boat. And then that way I'm separating my gear not only spatially but temporally. I'm taking advantage of the attraction advantage of a flasher on the lower two riggers. Then this 10-pound lighter ball comes by a little higher a second later and can often provoke a strike. Okay. Also, with a cycle function that's available on Canon's Mag 10, I can swim this middle bait and actually work the middle of that water column, and it's just a phenomenally productive aspect of fishing downriggers, and a great way to work the whole water column. And just you know, just for your own satisfaction, we need to again revert back to the basics if we're not catching fish. I went too fast here. If we're not catching fish, so here we go. You need to absolutely cover ground, and by going with the tidal current, you're gonna be able to do just that. Salmon attack from below. Let's present the lure at or above the fish's depth. We definitely be watching our speed. Maybe we're going too slow. Maybe we're going too fast. You know, there's lots of sound producing lures on the market these days, and you know, something you definitely need to think about. Scent is a very important aspect. We at least want to keep our human scent off the lures, and keep in mind the last thing your lure touched when it was in the boat is the first thing the fish is going to smell, and you absolutely have to, you know, take that bull by the horns. Now, as far as hooks, I know we've all heard this before. It's so very important to use brand new sharp hooks every single day. And I tell you what, I go through hooks really, really rapidly, and I would encourage you to do the same. Okay, if you have any more things you really want to dig into, remember the dirtiest tricks are absolutely available on the outdoorline.com. Sorry, I cranked through this a little bit here too fast. There we go. But you know, bending spoons, you know, a definite way to put a different action on things. Herring strips, and you know, again, bottom tracking with a Canon downriggers, bait rigging. We also have forums if you care to ask a question. That's all on theoutdoorline.com. You know what? Get out there and get a bite. If you ever see the ESPN boat, that's my ride right there. Come see me, and you know, thanks for tuning in tonight. And if you have any questions, we'll make sure to take them now. And if not, you know, thanks for tuning in tonight, and we certainly appreciate it. And there we go. Anybody out there have any questions? You can just voice them if you want to. And I'll see if there's any questions on the chat. Okay. Well, I appreciate everybody that tuned in tonight. And, you know, again, you have any questions, you hit me on theoutdoorline.com. And thank you very much. This is Tom Nelson signing off. And, you know, once again, thanks for joining the Zoom webinar, and look for, again, more of these Navionics webinars, and we'll see you on the water.